Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Harrison, and I'm calling to order the September 26, 2022 meeting of the Board of Commissioners for the Brattleboro Housing Partnership at 4:42. So shall we review the minutes?
Sure.
For August 1st? Has everybody reviewed those? And does anybody have any questions?
Nope, no questions.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
A motion that we approve the minutes for August 1st, 2022.
Thank you. Second?
I second.
Thank you. The resident and citizen participation? I don't think so.
The only person joining us is James Griffin, who's our fee accountant,
Right.
and BCTV, who's recording the meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you. So the next is our executive director report. Does anybody have any questions about this great report?
Just a technicality. Should we all have voted for the minutes? I think after I second it.
Oh,
Sorry.
you're right. It's hard to raise our hands on phone.
So hold on one second. So Pat, you need to be able to, you need to turn the speakers off on your computer as well.
What do I have to do on my computer?
So you either close out of on the computer and just be on the phone, or
Okay, I'll do it that way because I'll sign off the computer and just go on my phone then if I'm
okay,
on.
sounds good.
Okay?
Sounds good.
When she gets back, I will ask.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Okay.
since we can't see everybody to raise our hand to approve the minutes, can we just say aye? That we
Aye.
accept it?
Aye.
Great. So the minutes have been approved. Or any negatives?
No.
Okay. All right. The executive director's report. Does anybody have any questions? Christine, do you have anything you want to say about?
I don't. I just I wanted to put that. I knew we had a lot of information to cover during the meeting, so I wanted to make sure that I just gave a little synopsis of what was going on in the organization this month. And so I think there's nothing I really need to add. I would just say it's been incredibly busy, as you can tell by the notes. And we did have two meetings with residents, one at Samuel Elliott Apartments, and that was around the complaint process and also the safety of the building. And we received a few recommendations from residents, which we are implementing. I think you can see the meeting notes, which are also attached. Mm-hmm. And some of those changes are that we have, we're having alarms at two of the stairwell, alarms installed on two of the stairwells, and also ensuring that the locks at the front door lock at 9 o'clock at night. And so those two changes we are in the process of implementing. And then the other notes are around the trash at Ledgewood Heights. So I met with residents to discuss the trash issue, and we're in the process right now of moving forward with a pilot project to have dumpsters placed on the properties.
Very good.
I just wanted to add something. I was going to ask Christine when we had that meeting the last time we got together up at Ledgewood about where they would be placed. Mm-hmm. Do we ever figure out that part?
Yeah, so they're going to be placed one in the central part of the in the central part of the property. So right in the center, sort of on the one end of where the playground area ends, where the recycling area is currently.
Right.
And then the other part would be down at the bottom of the hill on the back end of the property. And where we remove snow and we put it on one side of that area, it would be on the other side.
Oh, okay. And was there like a formulation, like 1 or 2 days, people, whoever had collective trash to be removed from their homes, how that would be implemented? And if anyone that doesn't live there would be offsetting that as well, how that would be remedied, I guess, if anyone brings up anything that doesn't live there on the premises, how is that going to be monitored? I guess so you don't have excessiveness. And in a lot of places that pretty much happens everywhere. So people just pretty much.
Yeah, we're installing video cameras. So we're hoping to install video cameras. There's also going to be a lock on the actual dumpster on the dumpster gate that only residents are going to have a key to the lock. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Because that was, I guess, one concern, because, that concern, plus what we saw when we went up, just pretty much trying to get an idea. Is if it does become a permanent thing, if you do decide, as far as with snow removal and all that, would they have to be replaced elsewhere? Would they be?
No. We strategically place them in places that we would still be able to remove the snow.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Any further questions? Okay. The yellow monthly property manager update for August. Did anybody have any questions? The general update, Vermont Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Looks like that's coming along. And the pages that indicate movement of residents in the percentage of rents and stuff. Does anybody have any questions about those pages? Okay. And thank you for including the July. Again, does anybody have any questions about those pages, the pink ones? All right. Wellness and Service Monthly Report, Board Report, by Lorelei Morissetti. She's doing a great job as usual. I'm sure everybody's reviewed this. And does anybody have any questions about the services? There's Jake Bursky. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right.
You did. Yes, that's great.
Okay, great. And Matt Atessa, is that right?
Atessi, but yes, close.
And we had the privilege of meeting him on our tour for the new board members. And Jake has done a fabulous job. So does anybody have any questions about the content described there and what's going on?
No.
Okay, great.
This is Byron. I finally managed to get in touch.
Wonderful, Byron. Welcome. Glad to have you. Yeah. So when we do any voting,
I wondered how it's going at Bellows Falls.
Why was your next up by your way, Byron? Because I could be having problems because of that too.
The Bellows Falls panel is still in progress. We haven't hired a SASH coordinator yet for that position. We've had 2 rounds of second interviews. And the first round, the 2 applicants decided not to accept the position. And then the second round, we haven't offered the position. So we're still in the process of looking to hire for that panel. We are closer to hiring for the panel in Brattleboro. So we have already gone through the second interviews. We do, however, we have secured a contract for a nurse for the Bellows Falls panel. So we're still in the process of moving forward. We just haven't hired a coordinator yet.
Well, that's progress.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
It has been a
Thank
slow
you.
process for sure.
Good. All right. There are two SASH flashes, one from August and one from September. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the board packet, with recipes and all the information and the services that are given, set up for the residents. Exercises, about mosquitoes. And,
I like the fall colors. That's pretty awesome. I
Right.
like how it was the newsletter looks.
yes. Does anybody have any comments or compliments or questions about SASH Flash? All right.
This looks great. I see that there's blood pressure clinics here. But I was also I had a question. Is there going to be vaccine clinics too around the different sites?
Great question. Yes, there's vaccine clinics. Today we had vaccine clinics at Hayes Court and at Ledgewood Height. Oh no, Moore Court today. And we have another that was for flu and for the new booster and any other COVID vaccines. And then we also have it scheduled for next week at Ledgewood on Monday. Rescue is doing these clinics. And unfortunately, they really can't do them at Red Clover Commons or Samuel Elliott Apartments due to the constraint of space. They bring their trailer and there's not enough space to do it at either of those sites. So we're hoping that maybe the fire department can offer it for the Samuel Elliott restaurant residents if possible. And then we're looking for an alternative with RCC, but luckily they're right next door to the Walgreens. So we're hoping that they'll be able to do vaccines. They'll be able to, if they're interested in getting the flu or the COVID booster, they'll be able to do it there.
So if Walgreens isn't an option, they also have been having them at BOHS. Is there like a way that we could help them get just down the street, or no?
We don't have any transportation for people. So that's the hard part. I think people with mobility issues, even though that's pretty close, would have a hard time. And there's the sidewalk doesn't continue on that side of the road the whole way. So that might be a little tricky. We don't have, I think at this point, Rescue they haven't come up with an alternate. I think the only other thing would be, and I would have to check with the SASH coordinators if they're still doing the vaccines for people who are unable to leave their homes.
Yeah.
Now, this vaccine, the flu vaccine, was just a 64. So will there be one later for the ones that are 65 and over?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't know the details about that.
Because I know they're just a different dose for older people. Because I saw there was an age limit on flu shots. So.
Yeah, maybe that's what I did see that as well. I'm not sure.
So I guess one quick question, I guess looking through this again, I was just wondering, because when we went to the other sites about the food commodities and different things that they offer on sites, is that also listed in these newsletters that people can come in? Because I've seen a lot of food that were on the table and I know people were aware.
Yeah, they put out a lot of information about the commodities program all the time. Also, the SASH program screens people for the commodities program. And so there's, I think that they offer that information a lot. Commodities is a restricted program, so it's based on income and age. And so you need to meet that requirement in order to get the commodities. But I do know that the SASH program puts out information about commodities pretty regularly.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the Everyone Eats, that they had their foods, they bring food up, but I didn't know like in some of the sites.
The Everyone Eats is we're only able to offer that at one site. It was started by one of the employees who had some extra time to do it. And then since then they've fostered a volunteer program for it.
Right. Okay. Because I know we're coming on those times, we're getting to the point where we don't know where since BRAP is wrapping up and a lot of these other things are winding down. People are really stretching their monies now, go shopping and everything. So
Yeah, no, you're
and the
absolutely right.
holidays.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right. So the Section 8 Shelter Plus Care and Transitions to Housing monthly program updates. Any questions there? This is always a very thorough report. I think this also, I had many pages of the rental.
I think we all got 7 pages. I'm not sure how that happened. Somebody else made the packet up. So I think they must have misunderstood my directions, but
That's okay.
better if we got more than less.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I just wondered, Byron, are the fair market rents getting any closer to realistic?
Well, I think that James is here to talk about that today, and I think that they have gone up considerably this last year. So are you ready? Are you all ready to look at that, the fair market rents? Yes. Okay.
Good.
So James Griffin is here. He is the fee accountant for Brattleboro Housing Partnerships. I think some of you who are new to the board haven't gotten to meet James yet. So this is James, and he worked, he really helped me to understand basically what we could afford in terms of the fair market rents that we receive from HUD, and then how much we wanted to go up from that. As you know, we can only go up 10% from what the HUD amount is. And so based on the amounts from last year, they've gone up considerably. So I think, James, if you wanted to share any additional information.
The only, I did a small calculation of what the increase would be raising the fair market rents for the Housing Authority from their 22 payment standard just to 100% of the fair market rents. And based on that, the authority would incur an annual increase of about $125,000 in HAP. I know it sounds like a lot, but Brattleboro Housing Authority's reserves are almost $500,000. So we have plenty of funds in Section 8. It's unfortunately a reason we have them is because we aren't fully leased. And if we can't put more vouchers on the street and we want to spend more money, we have it to spend. Again, I just let the board know that we need, now that we're a Section 8 only housing authority, we have no longer get any Section 9 funds. The authority lives on its administrative fees earned out of Section 8. So the more units we have on the street, the better. I understand it's hard to lease. There's no leasing, there's no housing, there's this and that, but I just want to remind the board again. So maybe raising the fair market rent will help that a little. But again, based on the current FMRs and what you're spending, a simple increase to the 2023 FMRs will increase the HAP by about $125,000. If we were to increase the 2023 to 110%, that would be an additional $180,000. So between the two of them, the authority would be looking at about a $300,000 increase in its HAP costs. However, again, like I said, currently we have $500,000 in reserves. And unfortunately, as of 12/31, when the year ends, I would assume HUD will recapture some of those just because you have so many. So to say that it's a wise decision to go up to 110, I would say do it. But I mean, like I said, if HUD takes 300,000 back of our 500,000, we might be a few thousand short. But again, that's a board decision depending on how much they want to spend and where they want to focus the money.
What kind of questions do you all have?
That's a good question.
I think it sounds like we should do it.
And my personal opinion is that the price of everything has gone up, but also like Social Security disability and things like that are also going up. And we need to stay solvent for the long haul. And I don't think 10% is a terrible number. What are the opinions of the board?
I think you're right too, Elizabeth. They did say that Social Security, I forgot which percentage they were going up on Social Security by next year. But also you have to look at the interest rate that's going to be going up as well also, which means commodities will be going up and other things alongside with the COLA. So the question is, will that be pretty much balancing out the same, or be extra pretty much the same amount? Because every time one goes up, other things go up along with it. So there's no cap on a lot of things that we have, you know, be it commodities, food, gas, housing. So that being said, I guess the question is, do we dare or do we want to do that? I'm really have to really, that's something I got to really mull over and do some serious research before I come to an honest answer on that.
Well, let's see, what are your feelings?
Mine? I'm sorry, I thought you asked somebody. Are you asking me, Liz?
Yeah, for them.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think that the rents in the area have gone up considerably. I think in order for our Section 8 vouchers to holders to really be able to find units and keep units in this market, I think that we need to increase the amount. I think that, you know, HUD gave us a substantial increase. I mean, I think, you know, so basically we went from $873 last year as the fair market rent to $945. That's the biggest jump I've seen in a long time. And so I think that there's already been a big jump. I think that it would be good to utilize more of our vouchers. And I think the only way to really utilize them would be to increase the amount to 10%. And I think that we would be, I think it would help landlords out a lot as well, because I think landlords in our community who really have been loyal to us have been really struggling to pay for utilities and pay for taxes, et cetera, on these units. And I think that it's, you know, it's a big ask to not be able to reimburse them at a rate that's really, you know, market value that they're going to get from someone else without a voucher.
Right. Alicia?
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have comment at this time. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Patricia? Pat?
10% is fair enough. Like everybody says, everything's going up. You know, rents in town, you know, regular rent. So 10% seems to be a fair enough percentage.
Okay. So this is a potential motion to accept the 2023 Section 8 fair market rents.
Aye.
And does anybody have any more questions about it? Does anybody want to make a motion that we accept this proposal?
I make the
I so
motion.
move.
Okay.
I second it then.
Okay. And since everybody is, you know, incognito with no picture, could you just say your name and that you second, or first and second?
Okay.
With Byron.
Second.
Pat.
All in favor, please say your name and a yes or no.
Pat, yes.
Byron, yes.
Alicia and I abstained from this vote.
So you actually can't abstain from the vote. You either have to say yes or no.
Okay. I accept.
I mean, just to be clear, you know,
Yeah,
I have to accept it. However, if we don't accept it, we do have to bring it back to the table, at least for the next meeting. It needs to be accepted prior to that. We traditionally have always done it in September so that we can prepare for it, but we would have to do it in October.
Okay.
So if that gives you more time to research, I think it would be really helpful if you have any questions today to ask James as well, because he might be able to answer some of the questions we have right now. like, for instance, I think a question that I would have, and, and we don't know for sure, but, what is the likelihood that HUD is really going to recapture these funds? And even if they did recapture the funds, how much of a loss would we be at this point?
I mean, I would be willing to bet almost anything that HUD will recapture. It's what they've done over the last 2 years. The question is how much. They don't just pinpoint. They don't like take 50% from you and 10% from, say, Bennington, and when they do a recapture across Section 8, it's the same percentage to everybody. So what they do is they base it on what the need is in the country, what they're getting from Congress, and then they say, well, we're short by X, so based on X, we need this. So it becomes it's a formula. And then usually what it does is it tries to keep it so that you're at no more than 3 to 4 months worth of HAP in your reserves. So of the $500,000 you're currently holding as of June, I would say no more than 300,000 would be what they would capture, thus leaving you 200,000. So even if you were to go with the 23 rate, then add 10% to it, and it drives our cost up 300. That's 200 in reserves from last couple of years, so we're $100,000 short, but we don't know what HUD's going. If the Social Security is 10%, then when HUD funds 2023 Section 8, I would think that the inflation factor rate would be 7, 8, 9% on your current spending. So, and on top of that, since we're MTW, we also have the ability to use any old Section 9 reserves to pay for HAP. We also have the ability to use our admin fee to pay for HAP. So I'm not trying to bully the board into it. All I'm saying though is that if there's any time for the board, based on how much money this housing authority has, to raise the rates to 110% and try to appease unfortunate market that there is, you basically have the funds to do it now. If you wait and they take the money from you and then you think about it 6 or 12 months, or 8 months from now, it may be too late. So again, I would advise taking the 23 rates plus the 10%.
Makes sense.
And in your opinion, that would be sustainable for future years after?
HUD funds based on what you spend. So the problem is that when it comes to sustainability, if we were to adjust it now, say we were to adjust it and it doesn't, I mean, I know Christine says that you're voting for it now, but by the time the tenants come in and we put it into effect, I mean, when do we put it into effect? October, or do we do it on a calendar year and make it effective with all restarts after January 1?
We do it after January 1.
Right. So if you were to increase it effective January 1, you wouldn't get any greater value in your HAP dollars until those tenants did their research. So even though I have my $300,000 is based on 12 full months in a calendar year. So, your tenants are spread across. So if half of them have just came in, say a third of your tenants have come in over the last 2 or 3 months, you won't see them again until, unless something changes, you won't see them again until 12 months from now, which means they won't increase their rents until, 9 months into your new year with this new payment standard. So when you raise a payment standard, it actually goes over a 2-year period, not really a 1-year period, because of the delay in recertifying. Okay. With that in the case, then yeah, there is some concern that if we raise it all at $300,000, we lose some money coming up. Next year we don't get it all in. HUD funds based on what we spend. There is a possibility that we could run into an issue, but again, HUD has set aside funds and other funds to help housing authorities. I just think that if Brattleboro is going to do it, this is the time to do it. And again, I could be wrong. I mean, come January, they could give you what you spent this year and no inflationary factor rate, which is completely absurd. But there's no way of knowing what HUD's going to do without, being in HUD. Mm-hmm. But you have so much money. I mean, the only other thing I could suggest is that maybe the board considers only, I don't know if you want to maybe, do 5% now, wait to see what they take back, and then do another 5% in the middle of the year. I don't know if the board's ever done that before. I don't know if there's a problem with that in terms of HUD. And that's a solution. If you're really concerned about what could be possibly taken from you, you should know by March of next year, when HUD comes out with their preliminary funding for calendar year 2023. So if you're concerned that you're going to lose that money and you don't want to go up to 10%, then, possibly do 5 now and 5 later. But you can't go down. So if you go 10% now, we lose a lot of money and the board's afraid and they want to lose. If you go down, you have to give them a full cycle. So maybe doing 5 now and 5 later, being conservative is approach. But again, I don't see the problem with the 10, but if some board members are concerned, then do the 5 and maybe a 5 later.
I would do the 5 now just to see where the market is going to be going and also the inflation rate. That being said, also with the new Social Security, I'm getting different numbers too from other people in other programs and other industries that I know of. So with the situation with funding now wrapping up with a lot of other things, and now they're finding money in other places. And like I said, I'd like to really do some research. I know there's some urgency on this, but I just want to make sure I'm making the best choice at this time and with a clear conscience, knowing that it was the only choice at this time. I would feel comfortable with 5% for now, just to see where this goes with the other agencies and with the monies before we make that deciding factor. Because originally I was going to say, well, there's that urgency. You want to get this done. Just push it through. But sometimes when things get rushed, as we know in Brattleboro, things don't always work out the way they should. So that being said, I don't know how everyone else feels, but basically I feel comfortable with the 5% and then just seeing where it goes from there.
Yeah, and that's where my hesitancy came from. So I would feel more comfortable with the conservatory approach.
Byron, how do you feel?
It makes more sense to me to go with the 10% and know where we're at and have to rethink things down the road.
Patricia?
I also had a procedural question, which is there something that requires this to be a unanimous vote?
No, it doesn't have to be a unanimous vote, but I would need to have at least 3 people vote yes, and nobody can abstain because there's no, it doesn't affect
You can't
anyone.
abstain. That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just so, we have a little more information. So I think administratively, I think it would be a little challenging for us because I think landlords will change leases. I think there will be a lot of administrative changes once these go into effect. So I don't think that I think it would be really difficult to change it mid-year. I also think
so it'd be difficult to do 5 now, 5 later.
I think it would be hard to do it mid-year. I think a lot of landlords who are leasing up or changing leases, or, we're seeing a lot of landlords sell properties and new people are coming on and they're getting new leases. I think it would be difficult for them not to be able to budget for the year, and I think that that's something I think, of course, we want to be able to offer these Section 8 vouchers and we want to offer them to more people. So I think the board really needs to think about, do you want to keep the people who are housed in their housing with the vouchers they have, with the risk that we may be able to put out less vouchers on the street? Or do you want to, be conservative and, and potentially lose both? That's the problem. And I think, so landlords are really seeing a dramatic increase in the costs to provide housing. And with the VRAP program leaving, I think that we're really going to see a lot of landlords struggling to house people. I'm definitely not on the side of just the landlords, but I am on the side of keeping people housed. And I have found that we've been really struggling not only to lease up new people, but to keep people housed when apartments change hands with new landlords.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at, Christy, because right now the housing is a big issue. Being on a bunch of other committees I'm on, and I guess we have the lack of, I mean, people get vouchers, but they don't have a resident anywhere to go at this time. As we know, housing is a big issue with the people in the hotels. We give out vouchers and they can't find resident. There lies the problem.
Well, they can't find places also because our rents don't compare with what people can pay in the free market.
Right. Exactly.
And so by increasing them, they would have a little bit more, they would be able to, they would potentially be able to go a little bit higher. I don't know what the payment standards are for Vermont State Housing. I don't know what their payment standards are for the year. I asked them to send it to me and I haven't received it yet. So I don't know if they're the same or they're higher than ours. That might be valuable information for this group to have.
Patricia, we have not heard from, excuse me, I should call you Pat. I apologize. What are your
Call me
feelings?
Pat, Patricia. I still think go with the 10% now,
I do too.
rather than to split it up 5 and 5.
Yeah.
5 now and 5 later down the road.
I mean, we can table this until next month if people want to think about it, or if you have additional questions, you can submit them to me and I'll read them at next month's meeting and we can review the answers at the meeting. I'm happy to do that as well if you want additional information. I will let you know that this is something that we do annually. So this isn't like a new, I guess for those that are new on the board, this isn't like a new program. This is something that every year HUD gives us what the fair market rents are, and then we base what we want to offer. Last year we did go up 10%. It was a smaller amount because we were given a lot less. But the other thing is I just want full disclosure. You can go up or down 10%. Obviously, I wouldn't think that we should go down given the amount of reserves we have, but so I just want to make sure you have all the information you need before deciding.
Well, do you think, you said you hadn't heard from Vermont, their rate?
So
waiting to hear?
Yeah, so every county gets a different amount of fair market rent. They get a different,
right.
So Windham County got a certain amount. We got, depending on where you are in the state, we tend to be a little higher than some of the other counties, but not as high as like Chittenden County. So, So ours came in really, I thought, pretty good for our standards, considering I thought it was a pretty big increase. I think, I don't know so Vermont State Housing is the state housing authority that offers vouchers throughout the whole state. So I'm not sure what their standards are.
I'm hearing both sides. I personally think we should go with a 10% now because I think the paperwork of 5% and 5% is enormous and not reasonable to ask for those who are having to do it.
Yeah, and now with that information, with the administrative burden, that makes sense to me as well.
Perhaps we could call the question and see who feels comfortable with 10% now. And those,
Good.
Okay. So, but please state your name and your opinion. So, Byron?
10 now.
10 now. Alicia?
Alicia Underwood, 10% now.
Pardon?
Alicia Underwood, 10% now.
10% now. Gary?
I was going to be the oddball, but I guess I'm going to jump on board. I would say yay, but in protest, but that's okay.
Okay, so yay. Okay, and Pat?
Pat Green, 10% now.
Good. Okay. So who would like to
So we had an original motion. We had an original motion that Byron made to accept the fair market rents with a 10% increase, and it was seconded by Pat. So Elizabeth, as long as I get your vote, then I can tally the votes.
My vote is yes for 10%.
Okay.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Well, we, I guess, done that.
Aye.
Aye.
Passed in full.
Okay. Sounds great.
Very good. All right. It was a great discussion with good information. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate your.
It is a lot of information, and it is a little, I know it's scary. They're big numbers, but I think right now we're in an unprecedented time in terms of this housing crisis. And I think that by really supporting, I think by being able to offer more, we have the ability to hopefully house more people.
Right.
Well, as a new person, it was just a lot to digest for me to really get a real, I wanted to be sincere,
Mhm.
but you know, if everyone feels comfortable with that, I just say, yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate the extra explanation from
Yeah.
Christine and James for me to make a more
Sure.
informed
Absolutely.
decision. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's what we're here for. So I think that's great. And I hope we gave you enough information. I was trying, and I feel honestly, I mean, I know we just passed it, but I would be happy to hold it for next month if people were more comfortable. But I do think that from my opinion, this is how I feel, but it's really ultimately up to the board.
I feel better about it. So thank you.
Good. All right.
And from your experience, I would have to, because you have common knowledge, you've dealt with this. So that being said, yeah, I would trust your instincts on this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Gary. Great.
Thanks.
All right. On to financial review, the
Checklisting.
checklist thing. Does anybody have any questions about the checks? The green sheets? Checks being issued? Okay. July and August 22 checklisting, we've had that. So check signing assignments. October, I believe that's you, Gary, is that right?
It is Gary, but unfortunately, we haven't been able to add Gary yet to the accounts because our transition to M&T Bank has been a little bit rocky. It's been good, but we haven't been able to really connect with our representatives the way we need to. So I think that if it was at all possible, I would ask that somebody else cover just for October so that we could make sure that Gary gets on.
I'll cover.
I wouldn't mind extending my time either. If I wouldn't mind doing it over if you wanted to, or even splitting it with you, Christine. I mean, Elizabeth.
Okay, so let's see.
Either way is fine with me.
Or I could do October if need be. Byron.
That would be great because I'm going to be out 2 Fridays in October. And the first and the second and the third. So maybe,
Oops.
pardon? Byron, if you took the second and third, and Alicia, you took the first and the fourth, shared it. Or Byron, are you okay with the whole month?
Well, I hadn't looked, so now I'm looking in October.
I could do the first and the fourth.
No, I'm not okay on the 14th. The second, I am on the others.
Okay.
Okay, Alicia, can you take the 14th?
I can.
So Alicia will do the first and the second week of October.
Yeah,
Sure.
that'd be great. Okay.
Yeah, I can do that.
And the Byron, you do the third and fourth week of October? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great, great.
And
So-
hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have Gary and Patricia on by that time. So maybe, I can email people if we get them on sooner, then I can let you know and then let Gary know that he could come in.
Okay, so I'm fine for most of November and some of December if we need it. So we'll just take it month by month.
Okay. I'm hopeful that we'll have Gary on it sooner than later.
Super. That's fine. All right. Potential motion for adoption of surveillance policy. Has everybody
Oh,
read that?
just one really quickly while we have James. I also added the monthly budget comparative. So I just didn't know if anybody had questions for him. And
Oh,
if
I'm
not,
so sorry. That is
that's
wonderful.
okay. We can let him go if we don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody have any questions about the monthly comparative?
No.
Just to note that we seem to be admirably ahead of the game as usual.
Great. Good. All right.
It's early yet. Remember that. Early, not winter, no winter yet. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. Thanks.
Thank you very much,
Thank
James.
you.
Very helpful information.
Yes, thank
Thank
you,
you.
James.
You bet. We really appreciate it.
If you need anything, just give me a holler. Talk to you
Okay.
later. Bye
Okay,
now.
Bye.
Great.
Take care.
Everybody, the adoption of the surveillance policy. We've had this before to read, and now we're going to formally adopt it. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have a silly question about the general surveillance policy,
Okay.
and that is, it talks about records of the use of fobs. What the heck is a fob?
That's a great question. So the fobs are it's like a little magnetic key that you use to get in and out of your building. And so several of our property sites have gone to fobs, including the Samuel Elliott Apartments, some of our community rooms at Hayes Court, and the Red Clover Commons. And the reason we have those is because we found, especially at Sam Elliott, people would have the key to the front door, and people would give them away or they would lose them. And so we'd have a lot of keys out in the community. And so as a safety procedure, we put in the fob system so that we can deactivate the fobs when they get lost or when someone moves out.
Uh-huh.
Now, I have a fob, and I have my two daughters that are okay to come in. So each one of my daughters has a fob also, so that, and it has like a serial number on it, and we pay to get an extra was $25. But I my daughters have access, so outsiders, relatives will get permission, and they will. But you have to. When I got them, it was $25 for extra for each girl. So other family members, if you want a family member to be able to get in, they will issue fobs, but there's a price for it.
Sure.
It's clearly one of those technologies that I'm just out of it on.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so it's sort of like a keyless entry. You don't need a key to get in, but you need the fob, and it unlocks the door. So, so that's part of the policy. Another just quick, I did send this to our attorney, who did give just two small pieces that she thought would be important to edit. So I think that if we adopted this, we could adopt it with the edits. First of all, she wanted it to be labeled video camera surveillance policy, because it's not just a full surveillance policy. So that was just one small one. And then the only other piece was any change of policy, and it just clarifies a policy under on page 4 under reviewing surveillance records. We added a line on the first paragraph that just said that the video surveillance is not monitored 24/7 by staff. We also put that requests must be in writing and contain specific details and reason for the request, including location, date, and time period of the request. And we also added a line that said BHP will not entertain requests from tenants for video recordings. Tenants request video recordings taken on BH property will be denied.
Does anybody have any questions or concerns about this policy?
I had two questions.
Okay.
Just first, I just wondered, for us, who are the qualified hearing officers?
So we have a list of qualified hearing officers that are part of our, that we, every year annually, we ask several attorneys. It's part of our annual plan for the HUD plan that we submit.
So this is not staff.
No, are you talking about, are you talking about a part of the surveillance policy? Which page are you looking at, Byron?
I'm looking at page 3 of grievances and appeals.
Oh, yeah, that's
Sorry.
that's the next policy. It's okay. We can talk about that next.
So Christine, I guess, is this also linked to this? One of them think it was like, but the Brattleboro Police Department as well? Do they also have access to this as well? Also, if they need to do any investigating or check on things, or are you guys, guess in a way, working with them alongside too with any type of things that are going on in the facilities as well?
So the policy does state that we can share information with the police department if we witness illegal activity. So if you look at page, hold on one second, let me. So you look at page 4 under reviewing surveillance records. Requests to review and turn over records may come from law enforcement or investigators with such state agencies engaged in protection services. Records may also be released to the Brattleboro Housing Partnership attorney and may be used in court as evidence.
Okay, because I see what says bona fide. Okay, I'm looking at the one on page 5 where it says enabling law or policy, bona fide private investigators, bona fide security guards, engaged in otherwise lawful activity scope. Okay.
So that's the actual statute of the law that's what we've cited, that law that's part of the Vermont statute.
Oh, okay. So there's no security guards in any of the facilities or anything?
No.
Okay.
So my question is, are we voting on each of these individually? Or
So there's 3 different policies. So the first
Right.
policy is the video camera surveillance policy.
Right.
So if you'd like to adopt that policy, I would ask that you adopt that policy with the changes that I read.
yeah.
That
Does anybody have any discussion about the changes? Any questions or any concerns about the policy? Okay. So can we move to accept, can somebody move to accept the policy, potential motives for adoption of surveillance policy?
I, Alicia Underwood, move to accept the video surveillance policy, including the edits.
Great.
Gary Stroud, second it.
All in favor, please state your name and say aye.
Gary Stroud, aye.
Alicia Underwood, aye.
Liz Harrison, aye.
Byron, aye.
Patricia,
Tricia, aye.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, hold on. Okay, the adopt grievance and appeals for applicants policy. What kind of questions do we have for that?
I had one question. Hold on one second. I'm just getting that now. Maybe I didn't see it on the application. I might have overlooked that.
Is this for applicants or the other one?
It's
Grievance and appeals for applicants.
Applicants, thank you.
Well, I don't know. I don't have the application like in front of me or your application process on that. But I guess to follow up, I guess with the conflict, because it seems like is on this is threatened with eviction, but rather violated your lease. I suppose a judgment would hang on the seriousness of the violations reported on the app. I'm just wondering, has it ever been like evicted, violated your lease while the rental assistance program. I mean, I don't know if the wording or language can be changed, because in certain instances, when they ask, have you ever been, I believe on one of them, evicted by your landlord? I guess the question would be, have you ever violated your lease? Would that be a better language rather than evicted?
So Gary, what page are you on? Or I'm sorry, they're not paid. They're not.
Oh, no, something I wrote down.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
this is specifically for the hearing. So just to back up a little bit. So this is the procedure for the hearing if somebody is denied as an applicant. So if somebody fills out an application and they're denied,
Mhm.
this is how they go about grieving the denial.
Uh-huh. Okay, so if they
So-
were evicted too, would that also fall under that purview of that eviction also? If the person got evicted, well, they wouldn't be applicable because of an issue with the landlord in the past too, as well as with these other grievances?
So that's part of the actual application. So that's part of the admin plan. That would be separate. So this is just if someone's able to, when they grieve the denial,
Mhm.
we used to have two different hearings. We had an informal and a formal hearing,
Right.
Both in-house. And we found that they were really redundant. And usually we really got to it, we really figured it out by the first hearing. And then if the second hearing, it would go to a formal hearing anyway. So right now we're just combining the two hearings. This policy says that we would combine the two hearings, and it would be not an informal or a formal, but it'll just be a hearing. And then if the denial is upheld,
Mhm.
then the applicant has the right to then go to a formal hearing.
And that would be in person, or?
They can be in person, they can be over Zoom, whatever the person feels comfortable with.
Okay.
So this policy isn't talking about why people get denied. This is just the process for how they appeal the decision.
Oh, okay. If they've been convicted of either of these, any felony charges or any crime or anything, and I misdemeanor. I'm just trying to get clarification.
So if someone,
This is just an example?
if someone, let's say, is denied, they fill out an application and their application is denied because they have a past criminal offense or they have evictions on their record, then everyone has the right to appeal that process.
They can grieve it, right?
This grievance and appeal policy is not about why people get denied. This is strictly about how they go about appealing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Instead of having two hearings, it's one hearing in-house. And then if let's say they continue to get denied and they want a formal hearing, then it would be a formal hearing held by an outside party that agrees to be impartial.
Right. That
And
makes
that's
sense.
only upon a request?
Yeah, if they can request a hearing. Yep.
Oh, okay. I see. Could be many. Like I said, yeah. I'd say a lot of different things on the app. Could be credit. Could be many different reasons why you were denied, right, in any application or any land. I see what you're saying.
But this
This is-
isn't
this is
about
the
the
grievance
denial. This
process.
is about how people
Got it.
grieve the denial.
Right. How to grieve this is a way for them how to grieve the process of getting themselves heard.
So what
Okay.
what the policy was that we had two in-house grievances, which seemed like a little redundant. And that's why we
Right.
made it so that there's one grievance. It's not a formal or informal, it's just a grievance, an appeal. That is usually held by someone who's impartial, who doesn't know the case, so that they can look at it impartially. It usually falls on my lap or another senior administrator that's not involved in the case.
Right.
If I were to uphold the denial, then the applicant would have the right to go to a formal hearing. And at that point, it would go to an outside it would go to an outside attorney who would then review the case.
This is different than like tenants' rights in that aspect and everything. Okay, got it.
So this is just streamlining the policy. Our policy, when we adopted the policy for the RAD program, it just had it was really cumbersome. It was hard to follow, and it felt like we were just holding two different meetings that were exactly the same. And so when we streamlined it to this policy, that's why we wanted to make it so that there was only one internal grievance, appeal.
Right, that makes sense.
And really both policies are really similar. So this is for applicants and the other one's for residents. So it would only be one appeal process. They appeal, and then if they are denied, then they may go and have a formal appeal, and that would be with an attorney, with someone to oversee the case from outside that we would pay to be, to be impartial.
Ah, got it. Okay, gotcha. It's many different grievances.
Any other questions so that we could move forward on this motion?
I had two. One of them you just answered, which was who are the qualified hearing officers? I guess I asked it just because I didn't find that information in the document anywhere. But the other is on page 7. There is a limited opportunity for review by the board, but no information about how such a review would happen, would be initiated.
Would that be brought forth by the executive director?
Hold on one second.
I guess we never receive grievances as members from tenants here ourselves. We don't
You
get.
don't
Okay.
receive grievances. So I think that this would only go to the board if, so it says the decision of the hearing officer shall be binding on BHP, which shall take all actions necessary to carry out the decision unless BHP's Board of Commissioners determines that the grievance does not concern BHP action or failure to act in accordance with BHP regulations, which adversely affect the applicant's rights, duties, welfare, or status, or the decision of the hearing officer is contrary to the applicant, federal, state law. So basically this means like if it goes to a formal hearing and the formal hearing officer either breaks the law or something that, doesn't comply with fair housing, it doesn't comply with, the Violence Against Women's Act, then it would really be the board who would need to step in and say that it didn't stand up to the regulations of those federal guidelines or state guidelines.
It just doesn't say how that would be brought to the board, how it would get into the board's hands.
Wouldn't that be at the discretion of the executive director if it's an as needed thing?
I think that it would be, like if they made a decision and we thought that it wasn't legal, then I would bring it to the board, and then ultimately the board would have to decide not necessarily about the case, but they would have to decide about the legality of the verdict.
Right.
Okay.
And that would be brought by the executive director.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Or it could be brought by the person that was denied the formal hearing. But again, you wouldn't be deciding on the grievance. You would be deciding to make sure that the law was followed. Yeah.
Right. It just didn't say how it would.
Yeah.
How it would get there. Okay.
So are we ready to move forward on approving this? Does anybody have any
I
further
am.
questions? If not, do I hear a motion that we accept this, we adopt the grievance and appeals for applicants policy?
I move.
Patricia Green, second it.
Okay.
And who was the first? I'm sorry. I missed it.
Gary Strauss, sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Gary.
I was just looking at the other part.
All in favor, please state your name and your approval. Liz
Gary
Harris?
Stroud, aye.
Patricia Green, aye.
Byron, aye.
Alicia Underwood, aye.
Liz Harrison, aye. Okay, motion passed. Potential motion adoption grievances and appeals for residents participants policy. It's pretty much the
I
same.
didn't receive that.
That was the one you were, yep. I think that was the one you were just quoting, Byron. There's two. I know it's hard when we're not.
I was looking at the grievances and appeals for residents participants.
Well, that's the one we're
Yes,
now.
that's the one we're voting on now.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Sure, we just did.
We just did the applicants.
So any discussion on
Yep.
the
Yep.
residents participation policy more than we've had? Okay. Would somebody like to move that we accept this policy?
Gary Stroud, move that we accept the policy for resident participation.
Second,
I, Alicia Underwood, second the motion.
all in favor, please state your name and.
Gary Stroud, aye.
Tricia Green, aye.
Byron, aye.
Alicia Underwood, aye.
Liz Harrison, aye. Okay,
Thank you.
so it was great information on the Brattleboro Housing Opportunities Incorporated. It was the whole process and everything. That anybody have any questions about that series of documents?
I just wanted to say I met with Christine and Jeanette White and Lorelei about this, and it was just really great, really informative. We went through all of the documents, and Jeanette gave us some questions for anyone who is requesting funding, things that she would need to know in order to move forward with the process. And so that is just a draft, like a first run through, but I just wanted to clarify, that was just all the things that she would need in order to move forward with the process. So I thought that was really helpful and quick.
I thought the whole series of information was excellent. It was very clear and thorough. And thank you for your hard work.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Christine. Very informative, educational, and helpful, getting a better understanding, clarity how the housing works.
Right.
Great, thanks. And I thank you, Alicia, for being part of this board. It's great. Does anybody have any recommendations for any of the documents for clarity to understand how the BHOI works with the Brattleboro Housing Partnerships Board?
My question, I guess I had two. One is, didn't seem clear to me who will administer BHOI's activities and funds.
So BHOI has its own board. And
Yes, but
yeah,
who will administer it?
like who
Who
will,
will staff it?
there's no staff. It's a staff. It doesn't have any staff. But who would administer the funds would be the Brattleboro Housing Partnerships. We hold the account. We manage the account that all of the money from BHOI is, has. And that's that last page would be the most recent account statement. Does that answer your question?
Not really. My question is, if BHOI is going to undertake some interesting new activities, which I hope it will, who's going to do the work of making them happen? As currently you make the work of BHP happen.
It would be the same. So it would be the staff of BHP. So the BHOI is the nonprofit board who has the mechanism to raise money through grants that BHP and BHA don't have the ability to do. So BHOI is a nonprofit instrumentality essentially of BHA and BHP.
So anything that BHOI undertakes to do will be an added responsibility of yours. Of
the Brattleboro housing partnerships. But the idea is that these all, I think that, and maybe that needs some clarity in terms of these pages. And that's because really we're trying to define how BHOI and BHP fit together and how they work together. And so so how this would work would be for decision making, the information, and Alicia, you can jump in if you want, but the decision making, basically BHOI would bring information to the BHP board, and then the BHP board would give them their blessing, and then the BHOI would go forward with undertakings. So the BHOI is just a way for us to raise money additionally that we're unable to do now. Like, for example, for a playground, we're in the process of applying for grants.
Yes,
for a new
that
playground.
I understand.
Yeah. But we won't be adding additional staff through BHOI unless something big were to happen and we were to have a lot of money, then maybe we would hire a staff member to manage the nonprofit organization. But as it is right now, BHOI is really, it's used to raise money for funds that go directly to the social service programs that are already in place at Brattleboro Housing Partnerships.
Or into new activities, like a employment program for summer employment for teenagers, or Lord knows what. If that were approved, it would be added to your responsibilities to make it happen.
It could be, if that's what we decide to do, but if it's a program potentially that we hired, a part-time person, or we were able to hire a AmeriCorps person, then it could go through BHOI.
But right now, the responsibility solely lies on BHI and the grant writer and the rest of the BHP staff at this point, as needed.
Okay.
Right, Christine?
Yeah, I mean, there's no funds at this point to bring anyone else on, to pay for someone else to work in that program. And we want to keep it close to BHP. We don't want it to run off on its own and do its own thing, because we really created this nonprofit specifically to support BHP.
Yeah.
I was only concerned about how much gets loaded on hazard.
So maybe I misunderstood your question. So Byron, I actually won't be a part of the board. Alicia will be part of the board, a representative of Brattleboro Housing.
I know you won't be part of the board, but you will be there is nobody else besides our present staff who it's anticipated would run anything that BHOI and the BHP board decided to undertake.
Yeah, you're right. There's no staff specific to the Brattleboro Housing Opportunities, Inc.
Okay. I just said we needed to be very clear on that.
Any further discussion on BHOI? If not, has everybody reviewed the projects in progress? And do we have any questions?
Is this, oh, I guess the question was, Christine, this is still going on down in Melrose, right? The
It
project?
is, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
It's still going on as of right now. These were the notes right before it went. We went on hold for a little bit, and now they just were approved to pull up the berm. They couldn't do it until a certain time in the summer, until the fall. So the berm, which is the large sort of the land along the brook, which is raised, they're now in the process of taking that out. And so when that's completed, and then the road work, the final paving is done, then we will have another site. We'll have another site visit, and we will have another, sorry, I can't think of the right word. We'll have someone come in and do the land. Why can I not think of it? I'm sorry.
Surveillance?
Surveillance, right. So, and the next, we'll need a land survey, and then we'll bring it to the select board. They'll come out and look at the property. And then if everything is accepted, then it will be officially finished, but we need the certificate of completion before we can do that next step. And then at that point, we'll be submitting all the information to FEMA so that we can get a new, basically LOMAR, which allows us to say what is the floodplain and what isn't. And so we're really confident that the rest of the land will no longer be in the floodplain.
So do you have like a date, or I guess an expected date? Not real, it's hard to say with this weather, but yeah.
So they're in the process of taking the berm out as we speak. And then I think that we would be, and then they'll finish up the additional road work, and then getting a survey, having the land surveyed will be our next step. So having somebody come out and do that will be the next piece. So I'm hopeful that it gets done this fall for sure. And then hopefully we'll be able to bring it to the select board sooner than later.
So as they say, worst case scenario, would that be put off till next year, you think, or not?
I'm not sure. I mean, we were really lucky last winter. We had great weather. So I don't think we're going to be put it off. I mean, we've been on target the whole time. And so this project, I'll be honest, has been remarkably on time. So I don't think there's going to be a big delay. I think at that point, then, we've already talked to the town about land use. So if the land is out of the floodway, we would be able to reuse this for land for housing. And so I think that would be the next step, would be deciding what we wanted to do to develop this property and what funding sources we wanted to try to allocate to bring here. But I do think, there's a couple of steps that need to be done before that.
Right. Like I said, fingers crossed with the weather so far.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had this project has been remarkably good. I think the contractors did an amazing job. They were on time. And I think that we were very fortunate that things have gone as well as they did.
Great.
Yeah, I was impressed when we had our site visit. Very impressed.
Yeah.
The playground at Ledgewood Heights, any questions about that? We know that raising money to get that redone.
Yeah, I think at this point we have I know that we've secured 2,500 from the Red Sox and another 3,000 from the Vermont Community Foundation. And I think that I know that we've received some more funds from the Brattleboro Rotary. And so we're really, plugging away at it. So we're applying for additional funds, which brings me to a very important point. I know some of you were able to send me your bios for the board. Those of you who haven't had a chance to do it yet, if you could send them to me as soon as possible, because one of the grant applications requires it and we can't go forward without it. So it doesn't have to be big, just your name, where you live, even like why you joined the board. 2 sentences is all I need.
I'll do that today.
Okay. And so I did receive them from 3 of you. So if you sent it to me, I did get it, but I'm still missing 2. I'm not going to call anyone out.
I got to do my homework tonight.
I'm not calling anyone out. It's
dealing
fine.
with an 8-year-old, prepping her for college.
Yeah, I understand. So, but I want to minimize the stress. It's just
Absolutely.
very short. Just a line or 2. That's all we need.
Yeah, great.
Pictures too?
No pictures. It's really just for a grant application. That's all.
Oh, I was trying to see which side looks best.
Okay, SASH expansion and SASH for all. Any comments on that?
So I'll just let you know that the SASH for All program, the pilot project did start as of the beginning of September, and we are moving forward with, we have a coordinator who's being trained, Jake Bursky, and we have been in the process of hiring a nurse. So we have a great candidate, and we're hoping that that goes through this week. And then we also have been sharing the memorandum of understanding with other organizations, including the hospital, Winston Prouty Center, HCRS, and Turning Point. And so those will be our core partners. And so far, everything has been really well received. So we're just in the process of finalizing those MOUs. So it's been a lot of hard work for our staff, especially Lorelei Morissette, Jake Bursky, and Shauna Jones. They have just worked really, really hard on this.
So Jake was the gentleman we met up at, was it Melrose?
More court.
More court. Yes.
Yeah.
And the other gentleman up in Ledgewood was?
That was Matt Attesi. He is the education and employment coordinator.
And the nurse was the one we met out on West B, I believe it was.
Yeah, More court.
More.
Susanna Shapiro. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
At Hayes Court. I'm sorry. Hayes Court.
Hayes Court. Yes. Yes. Out in West B. Okay. So that's those three. All right. More on the team on board.
Is there any further business that we need to take care of, or are we ready to adjourn?
Oh, okay. I guess my question is our next meeting. Are we in person, hybrid, or do still Zoom?
October is still by Zoom. In November will be our only meeting in person. I am recommending, and I would like your approval on this, that for the sake of those who don't drive at night, that December, January, February, March be by Zoom, and that April through November be in person, for the safety of roads and black ice and things of that sort.
I agree. I would definitely concur.
I appreciate that motion.
Okay. So
I just want to be clear, and I don't know what the open meeting laws are going to be after January. So once I have more clarity around that, I'll let the board know. But
okay, if we have to change, we will.
Okay.
But right now, the only meeting will be in person will be November, and then hopefully you'll know soon about the open meeting laws and what we can do for our own safety in the winter.
So I guess my last and final Jeopardy question would be, once you meet in person, is that open to tenants in the facility to come in as well, or they could Zoom in? Is that something sent out to them?
It's open to residents in the community. It would be open to residents as well.
Okay, I was wondering if this meetings like this are sent out to the tenants also, that they can come in and Zoom in also as public.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Yes. It's a public meeting. So it's put in the newspaper. It's put on our website. It's put on our Facebook. So it's, the meeting is published, the public meeting. So people are invited.
Excuse me, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's okay.
So is that in the SASH newsletter as well also when it goes out? No? Okay.
No, we put a different notice out because SASH is a separate funded grant that's not.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yep.
One other question. Can I ask how David is doing?
David has been working intermittently. He actually worked a little bit today. So he is working a little bit at this time, but he's been only working a few hours a week. But I will let him know that you're thinking of him.
Absolutely. Please send our regards from the whole board.
Yeah.
Our hearts go out in our prayers.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Gary Stroud, I motion that we adjourn. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Second, we need a second. Alicia?
I second. Alicia.
All in favor?
Aye. Gary Stroud, aye.
Aye.
Patricia Green, aye.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another wonderful
Great.
meeting. Have a great evening, people.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good.